Hey guys, Bartel's Bookshelf here, and it's been a while, hasn't it? I know I haven't posted in like 2 months, maybe I think more than that now. You know, this is something it's just something I go through every like quarter or whatever. I get so overwhelmed with everything, and I get so in my own head about making videos and about wanting to connect with people, and it's a whole big complicated series of things that, as usual, I don't want to get into. That's not what I'm here for. That's not what you're here for. But there's a lot going on up here, and sometimes it keeps me from doing things that I want to do. And on top of that, as I mentioned in my last video, I've just been going through a really bad reading slump. I think I've read maybe 4 books in the last 2 months or however long it's been. Which for me is like really agonizingly slow. I mean, any reading is good reading, but it always takes a little bit of the wind out of your sails if you're finishing things so slowly, or you can't focus on anything. Everything you try to read just sort of falls apart to tissue paper. So it's a lot of things. But I recently went on a trip with my friends Laura and Nakia. It was Laura's birthday, and we decided to, as usual, go on sort of a bookstore crawl trip, and we went to Fresno, California, where it was exceedingly hot. We probably didn't pick the best time to go, but we went to 4 different stores, and we saw some interesting sights. I'll have linked all of the bookstores that we went to in the description if you want to know more, but I'll kind of just talk about them as we go. Unfortunately, I didn't get footage of a lot of these because, as I said, I've just been a bit slumpy, both in terms of reading and making things, so I kind of half-assed it a little bit, and I didn't get footage of the last 2 stores, which I'm really upset about, but if I can, I'll try and put pictures in or whatever, just to give you some idea, because I think it's important to shout out these, independent bookstores. They're a dying breed, so I think it's just so important to support them when you can. So yeah, we went to Fresno. It was a pretty good time, and there were kind of the way that we sort of laid out this trip was that we were going to do 2 big bookstores and then maybe 2 smaller bookstores if we had time, and that's basically what we ended up doing. And our 2 big visits were Book Barn and Book Nook. Both of them were, as you would imagine, very large. One of them had 2 levels as well. I think the second level was mostly nonfiction, so we didn't really go up there, but still, it was a huge location. And lots of collectible stuff, too. And then we went to this place called Heart's Haven, which was really interesting because it was sort of a mix between a used bookstore and like a New Age shop. There was like tarot cards and crystals, and there was like a jazzercise room in the back, so it was unusual, but it was interesting, and I found a few things there. And lastly, and I really wish I got video of this because it was a great store, and I really feel they deserve to be shouted out. We went to a Petunia's place, and this is a bookstore for children, and we just stopped in here on the morning that we were going to leave because we were like, we have all morning. We have to check out at 10. We don't have to leave right away if we don't want to. We'll check out this place on the way back. And we checked it as we were leaving, and it was just such a nice store. It was really bright and color. It was devoted mainly to children, so we weren't thinking of it as one of our major visits. But the inside of it was so brightly colored and really cute. And the lady who was manning the store was really, really kind to us. She was very sweet. It really felt very much like a lot of personality, and it just felt very open-minded and welcoming. They had LGBTQ kids books and stuff. They were actually doing a segment for PBS in there, so we had to wait outside a little bit before we could come in. So I just they just seemed like a really cool and interesting place, and I just really want to shout them all out. So yeah, it was a really good trip. Aside from book stuff, we went to this place that I'd never heard of called Forestiere's Underground Gardens, and it was a series of tunnels and underground gardens that were created by this Italian immigrant Baldassare Forestiere, and we went on a guided tour of that the day we left, and it was really, really cool. You're not really allowed to share a photo or video from there, but I can get some stuff off Google just to show you what it was like. It was really, really cool, really interesting. Reminded me a little bit of the Winchester Mystery House. So yeah, honestly, I don't know if I expected a whole lot of Fresno. I mean, it's been a while since I've been there, but yeah, they really came through. And I've also been getting some really nice comments from people and a few new subscribers in the last few months, which is surprising. So I don't know. It's sort of given me the confidence to try to get the rhythm going again, So yeah. Anyway, roundabout way of saying there's a lot of things that have sort of conspired to make me want to try and make videos again. So here I am. I hope you guys enjoy. I'm just going to do my usual ramble, talk about books, and share anything interesting or any salient thoughts I have as I do. And so yeah, hope you guys enjoy, and let's get into it. So the first book I have here is The Atlantic Abomination by John Brunner. This was at the Hartshaven bookstore. Honestly, like, I don't know much about this. I know about John Brunner because, he's a very famous 60s British sci-fi author. He wrote The Sheep Look Up, Stand on Zanzibar. I haven't read any of his stuff, but he's one of those writers that I've heard a lot about. And really, this just intrigued me because I read the back and it said, a horror novel by John Brunner? A science fiction shocker by the man who wrote the Hugo-winning Stand on Zanzibar, by the author of The Jagged Orbit, Catch a Falling Star, Times Without Number? Of course! The Brunner talent is manifest in this edge-of-the-seat novel about what happened when the first sea-bottom explorers brought up the not-so-dead body of an inhuman intelligence that had been sealed up for innumerable eons. Godzilla, Gorgo, King Kong. Stand aside for The Atlantic Abomination. I mean, how could you not want to read that, So it's like a weird sort of kaiju thing from John Brunner. And it has sounds like a bit of a Lovecraft vibe, or like a Nigel Neal, like Quatermass in the Pit vibe. So that just sounds really weird and interesting. So I hope that's good. So next, which I think this was also from Hartshaven. Look, I'll just get into it. So this is the first book in the Warcraft War of the Ancients trilogy, The Well of Eternity by Richard A. Knack. So I've never really been a big Warcraft fan. I played a little bit of World of Warcraft growing up because I had friends who were into it, and I read like one other book before. I have a basic understanding of the lore just from osmosis, But I remember I had a friend in high school who was really, really into Warcraft, and he let me borrow this book, and I remember reading it, and the only thing I remember about I never finished it, but the only thing I remember about it was in the first 10 pages there's a guy who transforms into a dragon, and I was like, that's enough for me to check this book out again. It's really cheap, and maybe I'll enjoy it in the same way I enjoy the Dritz books, as just kind of popcorn fantasy. Who knows? But that's what made me buy this, so that's why I'm laughing. So I don't know, maybe it's good. I looked it up, and the shapeshifter dragon is a main character, which is cool, so I don't know. This is one I got from Book Barn. Book Barn actually had a pretty impressive shelf, multiple shelves of vintage sci-fi and fantasy, but I don't know. I didn't find a lot that really interested me. As I said, during this whole period, I was just sort of in a bit of a funk, with reading and things, so I wasn't looking out for a lot of things that I normally would be, but this just looked really weird and interesting, so I picked it up. This is The Micronauts by Gordon Williams. It's just a sci-fi book about a bunch of people who get shrunk and they have to fight bugs and things. I looked into this, and apparently this was this was going to be a movie. And this book was sort of written as sort of the pre-novelization. They used to do that with movies sometimes to kind of build up hype before the movie would come out. They did that with The Swarm and a few other things. But that's what this was. So this is essentially the treatment for the movie that never happened. It just sounds really pulpy and fun. And the author actually seemed like an interesting guy. Yeah. So the author, Gordon Williams, he was a British guy who was actually more known for his realistic novels and his screenwriting. In fact, he wrote The Siege of Trencher's Farm, which was the basis for the movie Straw Dogs, which, if you know that movie, is like the complete opposite of this kind of pulpy sci-fi thing. So I just thought that was really intriguing. So yeah, he seems to be one of those sort of very competent, work for hire people who can just work in a lot of different genres, and that intrigued me even further. So we'll see if I get to this anytime soon. But yeah, it seems interesting, and that cover art, of course. I mean, how could you say no to that cover art? Anytime you see something like that, I want to read that. These next two are part of a series, so I'll just show them both. There's a King's Blood 4 and Necromancer 9 by Sherry S. Tepper. So I've heard of. I'll hold the first one up. So I've heard of Sherry S. Tepper, but I really don't know much about her. I know she wrote. Come on, focus. I know she wrote Beauty, which is like sort of a sci-fi retelling of Beauty and the Beast that was nominated for the Nebula or the Hugo or something, one of the big awards. And I've seen her stuff around, but I've never really read any of her work, so I don't really know what to expect of it. And really, these don't say much, so. But I found out later they're part of a trilogy, so I have to find the last one now. But really, just what intrigued me about these was just the cover art. There's just something about it. It's very sort of, in the lands of the true game, your lifelong identity will emerge as you play. Prince or sorcerer, armiger or tragamore, demon or doyen, which will it be? I don't know, there's just something very shadowy and gothic and kind of mysterious about this cover art. There's Necromancer 9. Yeah, look at that. It's like there's something so like grotesque about it and like Tim Burton-y almost, or like Edward Gorey or something like that, and that just really intrigued me. So on that basis alone, I bought these. I hope they're good. I read a little bit about them just to learn more, which is where I found that it's actually a trilogy, which is annoying. But yeah, they're about like a shapeshifter and stuff like that, and there's like other sort of sequel series that follow on with his like mother and stuff. So we'll see how these turn out. Yeah, honestly, I just hope they live up to that cover art. These really intrigued me. So yeah. The next is one from the 80s. This one looks pretty interesting. This is Lyric by Gregory Frost. Or Lyric, probably. Duh. He's a bard named Lyric, so it probably should be Lyric. Whatever. Lyric and Beauregard, just a man and a cat from another universe. Again, that's all you really need to know. A man and his cat from another universe. But I read the back. Lovelorn Lyric and wisecracking Beauregard have been companions through world after world, adventure after adventure. They seek Lyric's lost lady and vengeance for the obliteration of their homeworld. But the evil Miradomin is always one step ahead, leaving a dark trail of destruction behind him. Crossing a chain of parallel universes, our heroes must take on new identities in each world. In his latest incarnation, Lyric has done quite well for himself. He is young, strong, handsome, skilled in the arts of war and song. Poor Beauregard blew it. He's stuck in the body of a cat. And Miradomin, this time, he's a god. So yeah, that just sounds crazy and adventurous and fun. There's, magic people with talking cats, transferred spirits, shape-shifting. Like, I'm into all of that, so yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I don't remember. I think I got this one at Book Nook, but I'm not sure. But I was really excited to find this. This is Downward to the Earth by Robert Silverberg. So the reason I was looking for this was because Bookpilled talked about it in one of his recent videos on like sci-fi novels that he had enjoyed recently. And like everything that he talked about in that video sounded so intriguing that I immediately added it all to a list. And unfortunately, the thing that I found was that the stuff on that list is pretty rare and hard to find, at least online or, in my usual haunts. So I've been keeping an eye out for it every time I go out somewhere to a bookstore. And so, yeah, this was one that I found. So this is Gunderson returned to Holman's world seeking atonement for his harsh years as colonial governor. But now this lush, exotic planet of mystery was called by its ancient name of Belzegor, and it belonged once again to its native alien races, the Nildoror and the Sulidoror. Drawn by its spell, Gunderson began a harrowing pilgrimage to its mist-shrouded north to witness a strange ritual of rebirth that would alter him forever. So yeah, I don't remember. It's been a while since I watched that video, so I don't remember all of what Bookpilled said about it. I should have rewatched, but I just, just everything he talked about just sounded so intriguing. So, and it's rare, so I was really happy to find it for a good price. So that's on my TBR at some point. This was one we found at Book Nook. I remember this specifically, because I spent a long time deciding over this one. So this is Joel Rosenberg, and not exactly the Three Musketeers. So I was worried about this because it says they're a Guardians of the Flame novel, and I was looking it up on my phone, and it turns out this is a huge, 12 or 13 book series that follows this group of people all throughout it's a group of normal dudes who get sucked into a fantasy world, and the book kind of follows them and their descendants through this whole series. But I was looking up, there's this one, this kind of kicks off a sort of new sub-trilogy in the series that's not related to the original story. it intrigued me because it's basically a retelling. It's a fantasy retelling of Three Musketeers, or sort of a parody of it almost. And it sounds very swashbuckly and fun. So I was into that, but I was like, do I have to read the whole series to understand what's going on? And it sounds like I don't have to. I don't know. The Wikipedia page mentioned that they reference things that happened earlier in the book, so if anybody is familiar with this series, do I need to know any of that going in, or can I just jump in with this? Because this one sounded intriguing, and they didn't have any of the earlier ones, so I don't know. I'm just here for Fantasy Three Musketeers. We'll see. Oh, and these next two were ones that I bought at Petunia's place, and these aren't used. These are new. It's a new bookstore. They only sell new books. But, it was such a nice store, and the lady was so nice to us. I was like, I'm going to feel like an asshole if I don't buy something here. And, kids' books are usually pretty affordable, which is good. They should be accessible to kids. So the first one here is Book Scavenger by Jennifer Chambliss Burtman. Book Scavenger, where life is a game and books are the tokens. So it's basically about a 12-year-old girl named Emily who has to go on this book scavenger hunt where she finds clues in books and, puzzles and things and, wins some great prize, I just got this because I love stuff like that. Anything involving, like, games or puzzles or, crosswords, that kind of thing. Stuff like, Glass Onion or The Last of Sheila or whatever, stuff involving, like, games and puzzles and things. The Westing Game, that was a book very similar to this that I really enjoyed. I just love, like, sort of scavenger hunts and puzzles and riddle solving, and when you mix it in with, like, adventure and stuff, So yeah, I have no idea if this is any good or not. I was just sold based on reading the back. So yeah, hopefully that's good. I enjoy a good bit of YA in middle grade. And then the next thing I got from there was I didn't realize I'd heard of this author before, but I haven't read any of her stuff. This is The Dreadful Tale of Prosper Redding by Alexandra Bracken. And as I said, I've heard of her stuff before. I know she wrote some YA series that was really popular, I think, but I can't remember. But this just sounded really interesting. It's got sort of an oldie-worldy, sort of Edwardian England vibe, and it's about a guy who's like, he's got like a demon hanging onto him, so him and the demon are like bound to one another, and the demon's very snarky, and I just love that sort of stuff too, sort of very sort of British adjacent, sort of fantasy. Everything's very prim and proper, but you have like demons and, I don't know, just the vibe of it. It didn't take much to convince me to buy these, just the vibes of them was enough to really intrigue me. So yeah, I have no idea if that's any good, but it looks fun, so I'm here for it. And these last two I know these last two were from Heart's Haven, along with the Warcraft book, I think, but these two were definitely from there. It was really, I wanted to say, Heart's Haven was really cheap too. It was $2 for a paperback, $4 for a hardback, which, like, all across the store pretty much, which for a used bookstore is like crazy. They're not as big as the other ones, but the pricing was really, really good. So there wasn't a whole lot there that like super interested me. A lot of it were just kind of thrillers and things, but check it out. Like, I'm sure you'll find something. But the main thing I came away with was The Last Samurai by Helen DeWitt. This isn't based off of the movie. I thought it was for the longest time. I thought this had something to do with the movie because I'm a dumbass. But this is like a literary fiction novel about a woman with she's a single mother, and she has a young boy who's like a boy genius, I think, and it's just one of those. It's a literary fiction book, and I haven't read literary fiction in a while. I hate using the term literary fiction, but you know what I mean when I say, it's not a genre piece. I don't know. I just remember hearing a lot about it. And yeah, originally published in 2001 to great acclaim. So this is like a reprint, and it's just one of those literary fiction books I've heard a lot about. I believe it won or was nominated for the Booker Prize or something like that. I can't remember. I'll put it in there if I remember. So yeah, I don't know. It seems very dense. It's very thick. It's almost 500 pages, but yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed challenging myself with these things sometimes, and it's a book I've heard a lot about, and it was only $2. So I was like, why not? Let's go, And then at this bookstore, they were also offering these blind dates with a book, where you have a book that's, wrapped up, and they have a little synopsis of what it is, to intrigue you. And this said something about being like a fantasy romance and some other things. I can't remember exactly what it said. But it intrigued me. I was hoping maybe for gayness. I don't think there is any, but this is Vonda N. McIntyre, The Moon of the Sun. The Moon and the Sun, sorry, by Vonda and McIntyre. So yeah, I'll just read it because I can't summarize it. In 17th century France, Louis XIV rules with flamboyant ambition. In his domain, wealth and beauty take all. Frivolity begets cruelty. Science and alchemy collide. From the Hall of Mirrors to the vermin-infested attics of the chateau at Versailles, courtiers compete to please the king, sacrificing fortune, principles, and even the sacred bond between brother and sister. Yeah, the synopsis on here is really long, but basically it's like a fantasy taking place in the court of Louis XIV with like a sun god, and it's just very sort of like magical realist, I guess. And I don't know. I don't think it's gay, but it sounded very intriguing. And I mostly know Vonda and McIntyre for her Star Trek novels. She wrote some of the earliest Star Trek novels, which is interesting. So I have no idea if this is any good or not, but that's the whole point of a blind date with a book, isn't it? See if you like it. So don't know when I'll get to that, but it seemed interesting. Also, I had no idea she was published in hardcover. I thought she was just purely like a paperback, sort of paperback pulp, paperback originals author, but I guess she had some big releases. I don't know. So that was everything we got in Fresno, but of course we can never just be satisfied with that. As we were driving home from Fresno, we were like, oh, because we didn't get a whole lot of books, this time around, do we want to go to Half Price, our usual haunt? And we were like, yeah, why not? That's a nice little cap to the trip. And we got into a lot of trouble there. At least me and Laura did. I know Laura got into a lot of trouble, and I added 7 more books to the pile. So I'll just talk about these because technically they're all part of the same haul. These are all from Half Price, not from Fresno, but just from our local used bookstore. First, I have a YA novel here called Dr. Franklin's Island by Anne Hollom. This is basically sort of a YA retelling of the island of Dr. Moreau, with kids being experimented on and turned into like animal-human hybrids. One guess as to why I'd be interested in transformation and that kind of thing. But I'd also heard about this a little bit, and apparently the transformation scenes in this are like really graphic. At least that's what I've heard. One bit that I heard about was describing someone's like sternum cracking or something crazy like that, and I was like, really? In like a YA like kids book? You don't normally see that type of stuff in adult books. Like the Thing style, gross out transformational stuff. So I was like, okay, we'll see. So it's something I'd always like had in my mind for a long time, and I ran across this copy in Half Price, so I figured why not? We'll see what it's like. Next, I have a couple books by the children's ghost author, Mary Downing Hahn. I have Took, a ghost story, and The Girl in the Locked Room, a ghost story. Just hold up this one, I guess. This is sort of related to Petunia's books, but my main go-to when I'm looking for kids' books is to look for kids' books that are a bit scary, because as I've talked about, I love Goosebumps, I love all that stuff. I love stuff that's a little bit dark and a little bit twisted and scary for kids. I recently got into Mary Downing Hahn a year or two ago, and I read a few books of hers, and I really liked them. So I was going to buy some of her stuff at Petunia's, but I was like, can I really? These are books for like middle grade, they almost never go over 300 pages, and they're all big print and stuff. And I was like, can I really justify that? So I didn't end up getting anything there. But then by the time we got to the Half Price, I had convinced myself that I know I've already got a few of her books, squared away. But I want to add more onto the pile, so I got these two, and these are just random ones that I've heard about. I really don't know much about the plots or anything. I think this one seems to be aimed at more of a younger audience because it's much shorter and the print is a little bit bigger than usual in her books. But I don't mind middle grade, especially when it's I've read some of her stuff before, and it's very much in the mode of like M.R. James. It's very creepy and atmospheric and lots of suggestion and stuff, which is interesting, very subtle for sort of children's horror. So I really like them. So I hope they're good, even if they're, short and meant for kids. So next I have, I was really happy to find this. This is The Pilo Family Circus by Will Elliott. This has been published in so many different editions. So the reason I've been looking out for this is because it's like a creepy circus book. It's from what I understand, it's not creepy in the sense of like traditional horror stuff. It's more very like surrealist and grotesque and kind of like Geek Love, something like that. But I'd heard a lot about it, and I love, as I've talked before many times, I love spooky circus shit, sideshows, circuses, carnivals, all that type of stuff. I love that stuff. Angela Carter, all that. So I've been on the lookout for this for a while because a long time ago, I had checked it out from the library, and then I had to return it because I didn't finish it in time. Then I could never find it at the library again. I guess that it was removed or taken out of circulation or whatever. Basically, I've been on the lookout for this for a long time, and it was weird because there were some editions that were older, there were some that were reprints, and this is like the third reprint that I found out about. So I don't know like why this keeps hopping around to like different publishers or anything. Maybe it's really controversial. I don't know. But yeah, it's just one of those things that I've always had on the lookout. I love spooky circus stuff. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I'm just glad to finally have it. It's really nice to find something you've been looking for a long time. Related to Book Scavenger, because I got this for a similar reason. This is The Games House by Claire North. This is by Orbit, so I don't know if this is directed at a YA audience. I don't think so, but everyone has heard of the Games House, but few know all of its secrets. It is the place where fortunes can be made and lost through chess, backgammon, every game under the sun. But those whom fortune favors may be invited to compete in the higher league, where the games played are of politics and nations, of economics and kings. It is a contest where Capture the Castle involves real castles, and where hide and seek takes place on the scale of a continent. Among those worthy of competing in the higher league, 3 unusually talented contestants play for the highest stakes of all. So, again, I love that sort of stuff. I love stuff about, puzzles or, games, leaking into reality, like giant chessboards, like all that sort of stuff. Something about that just really speaks to me. It also says on the back here, this novel was originally published in 3 installments, The Serpent, the Thief, and the Master. So was this published, self-published on a website or something? I know Orbit does a lot of that. They'll republish really popular indie authors and rebind sort of the stuff that got them popular into, nicer, bigger, more elaborate editions. I know they did that with the Michael Sullivan books as well, so I don't know. I've never heard of this author, but it's Orbit, and it sounds interesting setup, so we'll see. And again, these last 2, you never see stuff like this when I'm at half price or in a lot of used bookstores, really, so. I have 2 Stanislaw Lem books here. Stanislaw Lem. Polish names are hard to pronounce, guys. Stanislaw Lem, these are 2 of his books. I've never heard of these ones. Stanislaw Lem is obviously a very popular Polish sci-fi author, super influential. He wrote the books Solaris. He wrote the book Solaris, which was turned into a movie. He wrote the Futurological Congress, which was made into a movie, and there's a bunch of other things. Very, very famous. Very, very well regarded. I've read a few of his things, but his books are really hard to find in the wild, at least in my experience. I was really hoping to find the Ijan Tichy stories. I don't know how you pronounce it, because that's kind of like what made his name originally. And the Futurological Congress is actually part of that. Ijan Tichy is a character in that. I've never heard of these ones before. This one, Imaginary Magnitude, these wickedly authentic introductions to 21st century books, preface tomes on teaching English bacteria, using animated x-rays to create pornograms, and analyzing computer-generated literature through the silence of bytistics. So it's basically a series of fake intros to future books, and they're sort of weird and satirical. That just sounds really cool. And this one, Peace on Earth. Are the self-programming robots on the moon ensuring peace on Earth, or are they secretly plotting a terrestrial invasion of their own? Only Ijan Tichy... Oh, this is an Ijan Tichy story. For some reason, I missed that. Only Ijan Tichy, set on a dangerous mission to report on the robot's activities, knows for sure. But as luck would have it, he's caught by a highly focused ray, which severs his corpus callosum and leaves the left side of his brain at odds with the right. Has he returned to Earth with the secret that could save all humanity? His left brain can't remember, and his right brain can't tell. Agents from the East and West race to get to Tichy's forgotten but priceless information first. Tichy, whose left hand keeps punching him and pinching ladies' bottoms, struggles for control of the lost memory and of his own 2 warring sides. So again, very cerebral, very satirical, very sort of, comedic and dark and weird. And Stanislaw Lem was obviously a big influence on Philip K. Dick, if you can't tell, with the themes of like shifting realities and things like that. So yeah, really happy to have these. These are really hard to find in the wild. At least, as I said, they have been in my experience. So glad to have those. And I have a few other Stanislaw Lem books as well, so I really should read some of him. So yeah, those are all the books for this haul. This video's been really rambly. I'm sorry about that. And as I said, I'm sort of getting back into the swing of things. But I just wanted to say, part of the reason that, I wanted to come back and start doing this again was because, as I said, I had this nice trip with my friends, but I've been getting a few more subscribers in the last few weeks and months, which I'm surprised by. I don't know where they're coming from, and I've gotten a couple really, really nice comments on some of my older videos from people, from just random people, and just that sort of stuff always helps me keep going, because a lot of the time when you're doing a channel like this on YouTube, you're getting 50 to maybe 100 views if you're lucky per video, and getting a comment, 2 comments, on a good day. So a lot of the time it can kind of feel like you're talking into the void. And on top of, having, feeling like you have to be on all the time and interacting with other people so that you can like get your name out there, and things like that. It's I don't know. In my head, it's just very exhausting. It's very demoralizing. As I said, there's just a whole mess of reasons as to why I sort of drift in and out. Not here to talk too much about that, but I just want to say, like, it's things like, those nice comments and the encouragement and stuff that keeps me going. So I just wanted to say, thank you to everyone who's done that, who's watched my videos, who's enjoyed them. Knowing that I'm not just sitting in front of a camera, just blabbing out into nothingness really helps. So, yeah, I just wanted to say that, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And I'm gonna try and get back into the swing of things as and when I can. I don't want to push myself too hard. Talk to you guys later. See you guys next time. If you liked this video, please like and comment. Please, I love talking to people about books. That's why I'm here. But until next time, I'll see you guys later. Bye.